What's up, guys? On today's show, we're going to go over how to put a set of Caltrac bars on your third gen Nova. And I think it's going to kind of be very similar to many vehicles that use the Caltrac traction bars from Calvert Racing. But one thing that we're going to do with this video is I'm going to show you how to do it without needing any specialty tools. So you're not going to need a hydraulic press or any kind of specialty tools that you would need to like either rent or borrow or take your part somewhere to do. I got it all done without any of that, and that's actually pretty cool, and it actually wasn't that bad. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Let me show you guys what's kind of going on here. So this car, my Nova, has like really old school slapper bars on it. We call them Southside machine bars, but I'm not sure who made these. But anyway, they're kind of a little bit better than a regular traction bar, the way they mount to the axle, because they actually mount through an eye bolt down here, which is weird because the front just has a bolt, and then these U-bolts go into the mounting location here, which keeps the pressure on the snubber right there. So they're kind of car specific, but they're really old and dated. And the traction bars, they work pretty well, but I think that the Caltrac bars I have are going to work a whole lot better. So I'm going to get to work taking these off, and then underneath here, I can show you guys, there's 3 bolts that hold this cup in for this leaf spring. I might try to get the leaf spring out. I don't think so. I don't think you can really get to that bolt without it, but I'm going to pull that cup out. I'm going to try to pull this leaf spring off. But first, I've got to make sure that I get the rear end supported by jack stands. One of the cool things about this car is it has factory dual exhaust hangers. Some people that I know in the Nova community have wanted to see what they look like, so I wanted to take a minute to video them. There's one, and then you can see the other one over there. Pretty neat that it had, dual exhaust from the factory, and then also they have the factory hangers back here on both sides. Pretty neat. Alright, I'm going to hit these things real quick with some PB Blaster. I prefer it over WD-40 and whatnot, but hit them all quick before I start pulling them all off. One thing I'm going to try to fix while I get this leaf spring out here is somebody, for some reason, ran the emergency brake cable underneath the leaf spring. Looks like it's like that on both sides, and it should not be. So that was a lazy, I don't care kind of thing there. So when I pull these off, I'm going to pull them all the way off anyway. I'll run that brake cable underneath them. Alright, so make note that the car is supported on this frame rail here by this big jack stand, and I also have the axle shaft supported by. I'm about to put the jack underneath the rear end so it doesn't try to pivot while I pull the leaf springs off. Pull the leaf springs off. I think I said earlier, there's 3 bolts here that pulls this cup down, which I'm going to pull down. Back here, there's just this bolt and the shackles here, which I think I'm going to replace. These bushings are toast. Alright, so I've got a problem here. Because they ran this emergency brake cable underneath the spring, it's holding the spring from coming down. And then the spring don't want to move back because it's hitting the jack stand there. So I've got to come up with some kind of solution here. Which may just be involve trying to jack it up right here. Move that leash, the thing forward, and then be able to get it out. This stupid brake line. There we go. Finally. Well, that sucker's out. I'll go bring it to the garage and start pulling the bushings out. Okay, so I got the leaf spring in here. I'm gonna pull this nut off. This whole bolt and nut here that's still holding the bracket. After I get some penetrating lube on it first. Take a minute or so to get this sucker off. Dog hates the impact. I think it's funny. Ooh, and I probably woke up the whole neighborhood on that one. Okay, got the nut off. Just pull the nut and bolt out. I'll try to get this stubborn off. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. I'm not sure how I'm going to get this sucker out of here. Alright, so this whole bushing, rubber, metal isolator, and this inner collar, I guess you could say, all of it has to come out. Alright, so a trick that I've seen people do that I actually just tried, that I've never tried myself, is to take a drill bit. I don't know what size this is, it's not too big. Put it on the inside of the collar and walk it all the way around. It actually is working. I think it's going the wrong way though. I think I need to come out the other way. Okay. Of course you gotta pick out the remnants to see what you got there. Oh, that's awesome. That rubber is toast. Smells like tires. Which makes sense. Now the tough part. Now I'm gonna get this sucker out. I ain't got no clue. Put a slit in this thing. Which in theory should help us out. Yeah, it's almost done. Can't work this thing in on itself. There we go. Making progress. There we go. Woohoo! That wouldn't have been too bad had I put the cut down it in the first place. As you can see, hopefully you can see. There, that's a better idea. Right there. But it's out. Oh, I should have videotaped this, but this is the other inner collar for the front leaf spring bushing, the old one. And again, I just cut it down the seam from the inside after I got the rubber out with a Sawzall, and then I bent this tab over. This thing came right out. I had it out within like 30 seconds. So if you can get a Sawzall, cut it down that line right at the junction where the leaf spring kind of curls over, and then just tap that one side down with a chisel, pull it in, it shrinks the inner diameter, and it came right out. Alright, I got some 400 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to go around this bushing because it was used before. Just to clean it up, get any burrs off of it created. I'm going to clean it up. And the instruction says to grease it, so I'm going to put some grease down in there. And on the bushing itself. So what I'm doing is I'm proving that you don't need big high dollar tools to do this. You can still do this in your garage. Alright. Grease, 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 grease. So I got a rubber dead blow, and I'm going to start it with this. And here we go. So now I'm going to take my big hammer and this piece of wood, put it on top. Grown and crooked. Just like that, she's in. I'm trying to get it equal size. Really, really close. And she's in. So the secret is grease. And I've got an equal sides hanging out on both ends there. Alright, so now that I have the front bushing done, I'm going to work on the rear. Just to show you how bad these things are. One, you can see all the brittle and awesomeness here, but this hole here is all oblonged out. It's supposed to look like that, and we're nowhere close to that. So I'm gonna try that drill trick again on this and see if I can't get that bushing up. Here it comes. Look at that. That worked really, really well. That thing is toast though. Look how thin. Wow. Alright, the other one should be pretty easy to get out then. That's a pretty cool little trick. And there's number 2. See how easy this one just tries to go in. And that works. Get it in. Nice. That one doesn't want to go in, or it's bottoming out a bit. Yep, they're touching each other. Might need to cut a little bit off. See if I can get it back out. Alright, I just put the new bushings in, the rear shackle part of the leaf spring. I cut a little bit off so that this would fit a little bit more firm. They were touching each other because they're a little too long. Alright, so these are the Caltrac bars. They're made by a company called Calvert Racing. And they're really, really popular. People are going like 1.4 and 1.360 foot with these style traction bars on a leaf spring suspension. They're extremely effective, and they stop all that axle wrap and really help plant the tires on the ground. This mounts actually to the rear end, this part here, and that mounts to the front spring eye. I bought these used, so they were already assembled, but these things are pretty cool, especially for a Nova. They come with the shock mounts right here on the actual bar that goes underneath the axle. And these are pretty much good to go, but I am going to pull the bars off real quick, because on this Nova, since we're using that spring bucket, it's actually going to be easier to install off the car and then just put that spring bucket up in place. So I'm going to take those apart real quick, and then we'll get started on installing it on the spring. Okay, so here is the Caltrac itself. This is the front bracket, and it goes on the front spring perch. And there's kind of an order of operations here. So this piece here rests on top of the spring, and in order to do that, that's the wrong way. Since this is the driver's side, this is the inner part of it. Right here is facing me, is facing the inner part of the car. The sticker's on the outside, that helps. But also, we know that we're going to have to set it up like this. So you get your bushing in, and you go ahead and put your front piece on. And then, what you're going to do is, this is your sleeve, and your sleeve goes in. And then you have one washer on each side. And then you put your spring perch on. FYI, I did not paint these, and the reason I did not paint these is because I'm eventually going to pull these off the car after I have my Dakota up and running for a race car. If I painted these, they would stick out really bad underneath the car with the rest of the way that the car is, because it's an unrestored Nova. So I decided not to paint these and not to paint the springs, but to go ahead and put the Caltrac bars on. So for now, this is what we're going with. And that's all she wrote right there. So now we just got to put the bolt back through it. Alright, so here's the finished assembly for the front spring eye. You have, of course, your spring, your aluminum bushing. This black thing here is the actual Caltrac bar, and then another aluminum spacer, and then the cup. So now you guys know how it's assembled on a Nova, and I'll go start putting it in place. Okay, so what the instructions tell you to do is mount the front, which you've seen we've already done, and then go ahead and mount the rear, mount the leaf spring to the rear shaft. Okay, so I've got the differential sitting back on the leaf spring, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the U-bolts on. So I made sure I didn't have the brake line in the way, which you can see is clear, and we went above the axle for the emergency brake cable. So let me tighten up these bolts. I'm not going to get them real tight. You can see there's still a gap, but I'll get them snug and then get the rest of the Caltrac bar on, and then we'll do the other side. Well, good morning. Last night I went ahead and called it a night after I got the two brackets on for the Caltracs, because I started reading the instructions again and making sure I was doing things right. And you're not really supposed to be putting the bar on unless you do it when both sides are done at the same time with weight on the wheels. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to take the whole passenger side apart anyway, so I called it a night. So that's what I'm gonna get started with this morning. I'm gonna go ahead and take the passenger side apart and get busy on that. So torque specs for these U-bolts are 45 to 55. So I'm just gonna go in the middle and go 50. One. And that's all she wrote. So I got the stud off those old traction bars for the shocks, and I'm just going to put them on the plates. It's cool is eventually I'm going to move these shocks inboard, and you can just flip these around so you can have the mounting point on the inside. So I will eventually do that. Look at that. Like a glove. Yep. Alright, this side's done other than the rest of the Caltrac bar, so I'm going to repeat the same action on the other side real quick, and then we'll get to putting the rest of the Caltrac bars on. These things need grease. Or anti-seize. Remember, I bought them used, so whoever bought these did not grease or anti-seize the bolts and the adjusting rod. So I'm going to put a good amount of grease on there, because if you don't, you won't be able to adjust them, and that is the whole purpose of them, is to be able to fine-tune and adjust your suspension. I want to make you note one thing. So I have the rear on, and this is actually reverse thread. So if I turn it to the left, it's going to tighten. If I turn it to the right, it's going to come out. So right now it's kind of all the way in, kind of as the instructions tell you to do. And then it tells you to go ahead and thread the rod on. I got some junk there, don't I? I'll pull that off. And thread all the way on. Nice and easy. Why? Because there's grease on it. You can't save them all, folks. Alright. Okay. Now, what it says is take the rod, pull the bolt out here. That goes on the bottom. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold this and then start spinning until that rod eyelet matches the bolt hole. So by doing this, they're both unthreading at the same time. And I'm getting kind of close here. There it goes. Just like that. Alright, so in the instructions it tells you want to leave a little bit of a gap between the roll pin and the spring. So if I turn this to the right, you can see it's lifting, and if I turn it to the left, it brings it all the way down to the spring. So I'm just going to pull it back and leave a little bit of a gap there. Alright, our finished product. Well, that's going to be it for this episode. Pretty cool to be able to get that Caltrac install done without having to use any kind of specialty tools. I think if it wasn't for the circumstances right now that we're living in, probably would have sought out a hydraulic press. But I'm glad I didn't, because once I realized you grease up that bearing, you can knock it in that easy. It was cake. So, you know, this is great that, you know, the general guy can do it in his garage. It's kind of cool. For the general mechanic, it's probably going to take you a day to 2 days to get it all done. So just make sure you allocate enough time for that. It's done. I can't wait to take it to the track and see if it makes any difference. Right now, there's not really much I can do to test because it's got street tires on it and there's no good surface and no slicks. So I'm not sure how it's going to react on pavement. So there's really no good place for me to test it at the moment. So I'm not going to do so and risk anything. But I do want to thank you guys for taking your time out, hanging out with me, watching me put those Caltrac bars on, and hopefully it maybe inspire somebody to do it themselves if they've been a little bit apprehensive about it. So again, I want to thank everybody for taking your time out to check out this video. If you could please give us a subscribe, go ahead and hit that button, hit the little bell for notifications so you know when we get some new videos up. Help share this channel with your friends if you're enjoying the content. We've got a lot more coming. I got some parts coming for Dakota soon, so we can get back on that. And I'm actually taking the Sonoma home, so we can do some work on that as well if everything kind of pans out. But everybody be safe out there. Please remember to just wash your hands, be conscious of where you are, follow your CDC and your local guidelines, and just be safe. And until next time, y'all be good.